One topic request I've gotten a lot, but I've never really done is what are the best cities to visit where you can get by without a car? And I've kind of made a cottage industry of this with my city visit videos. I mean, I tried to get around like Houston and Phoenix without a car with mixed success. And the weak link is usually the quality of the transit connection to the airport, if there even is one. So today I'm going to take a fresh look at airport connections. I'll explain the criteria I use to rate them, and then I'll give you what I think are the 10 best, with some honorable mentions and some very, very dishonorable ones. Now, one of the first videos I ever made was along these lines, but I've had a lot of experience taking transit to and from various airports since then, and I now have a lot of very different ideas. For example, in that video, I limited my list to airports that have rail transit, and that is just kind of a cop-out. There are lots of airports that have very serviceable bus transit, and this one isn't even close to making today's list, but I would usually take the Route 50 bus to the Albuquerque Sunport when I was living there, and I'll go ahead and use it to explain the 4 elements I looked at when I was putting today's list together. First, travel time. If the airport is a long ways away and there's a pokey, circuitous bus route to get you downtown, you're probably not going to bother. So I grabbed travel time directly from timetables and I looked at midday on a weekday to get a typical travel time. Frequency, kind of a big deal. In Albuquerque, Route 50 has 30-minute headways. I always felt like this wasn't a huge deal when I was going to the airport because I could always use like a real-time app to make sure I minimized my wait time at the stop. But on the return end of the trip, I would always find myself kind of stressing out as I was waiting to disembark the plane, wondering, am I gonna catch the next bus or am I gonna have to wait like another 30 minutes? So sometimes, honestly, I just end up using a ride hail. If it's 15 minutes or better, I don't worry about it that much. It comes when it comes. And I just want to pause to say the theory of how people perceive waiting time relative to in-vehicle travel time is super interesting and really helps explain why frequency is so important. I'll leave a link or two to some interesting papers down the description. Third element I considered, span, or when the service starts and ends. This is hugely important for air travel, especially if you're a cheapo like me who likes to take super early flights so I can get where I'm going early in the day and save money because the flight is usually much less expensive. Route 50 doesn't start running until 7 a.m. and it shuts down around 7:30 p.m. So that really makes it useless for a lot of flights. What you really want is a transit service that can get you to the airport for like a 6 a.m. flight. Transit fare, we all have different sensitivities to this, and maybe you're the type of person for whom it just doesn't make that much difference. But I always feel like cities where they add a surcharge for airport access kind of feels like a favor to the taxi and ride-hail industry. I do understand in some cases you're committed to it because it's part of the funding package and you have some sort of construction bond to pay off. It's just that on like a policy level, it just seems like it's incentivizing counterproductive behavior. But just FYI, APQ Ride Route 50, like the entire system, is free. As far as the universe of airports I looked at, it's medium and large US hubs. There are 64 of those. And then any other airport in North America that's in the same range of passenger enplanements. So just fair warning, there are lots of airports that have like service between 6 a.m. and midnight, will get you downtown in 40 minutes or so, and have 15-minute headways. That's not good enough to make this list, so today we're focused on services that do better than that. And I'll point out what makes each one particularly good as we go through them. And with that, let's get into it. Number 10, Cleveland Hopkins International. And this one's just solid. It meets or exceeds all the criteria I had for this. The airport is the terminal station on the RTA Red Line, which is grade-separated heavy rail, and that service will get you into Tower City Station downtown in 27 minutes. The headways are right at my minimum threshold, 15 minutes, but here's the kicker. The first train out of Tower City to the airport is at 3:12 a.m., and it immediately starts running every 15 minutes, 7 days a week. So this is great for a city Cleveland's size and honestly amazing for a Rust Belt city that you would think has some serious transit funding issues. 9, Miami International. This is a strange one and I did use this service last year, so let's talk through it. First of all, there's a bit of walking and then you have to take the Miami Mover, which is kind of an air train, to get to the Miami Airport Metro Rail station. Now, if it's a weekday, you can take the Orange Line directly downtown to, say, Government Center, and that travel time is only 15 minutes. The trip is done before you know it. Service starts a bit later than I like, after 5 a.m., but it runs at least every 15 minutes and every 10 if it's between 6 and 9 a.m. or 3 and 6 p.m. So it's probably underrated on this list for a weekday, but unfortunately, weekend is a different story. For reasons I don't fully understand, on Saturdays and Sundays, the Orange Line only goes as far as Arlington Heights, and then you have to transfer to the Green Line to get all the way downtown. So on weekends, this is not a top 10 service, but on weekdays, it's probably higher than where I have it here. Number 8, Vancouver International. I have done this one, just not since I started the channel, so I don't have any of my own footage. So first of all, the Canada Line SkyTrain is an amazing service. Driverless trains, 24 minutes to Vancouver City Centre Station, running every 6 to 12 minutes, depending on time of day. And service starts around 4:45 in the morning, so this is going to work for just about all possible flight times. I gotta tell you, it was very hard to rank these. This could definitely be higher on the list, but I dinged it for the $5 ad fare charge they give you when you're taking the train from the airport. It ends up being like $7 US, which is still a very good deal. It's just the principle of the thing. Go ahead and mentally rank this higher if you like. Number 7, one I took recently, the Gold and Red Lines from Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson. This actually makes for a great head-to-head comparison with YVR. Travel time to 5 points, downtown, only 17 minutes, so that beats Vancouver. Frequency and span, very similar to Vancouver on weekdays, but a bit worse on Sundays. And I did look at Sundays for all of these because Sunday is a day when planes are known to fly in the air. So in my mind, kind of a dead heat, but no airport surcharge for MARTA. The fare is just $2.50 to get downtown in 17 minutes. Atlanta, highly recommended for a car-free trip. Just don't expect the train to get you everywhere you want to go, so bring your walking shoes. Number 6 is a little trickier, and it's Boston Logan. The way to go here, I believe, is to take a shuttle, usually the 88, I think, from baggage claim to the MBTA Blue Line Airport station. The shuttles are super frequent, so I show something like a 28-minute trip between baggage claim and downtown Boston. And the frequencies can be as good as every 4 or 5 minutes, one of the best on this list. And then even on weekends, you're looking at like maybe 10 or 12 minutes. Service doesn't start until a little after 5 a.m., so I dinged it for that. But fare is just $2.40. I actually haven't done this connection. I have done the Silver Line bus, which connects to South Station, if that's where you're going. But the Silver Line is less frequent. The travel time is a bit longer, but it's free, apparently. So you've got multiple good transit options from Boston Logan, and they're dirt cheap. Number 5, I've got a sneaky one for you. San Diego International. Does the San Diego Trolley, America's highest ridership light rail system, go to the airport? Sadly, no. But the airport is served by MTS bus route 992. Travel time to downtown is 15 minutes, which is partly an artifact of having an international airport that occupies a massively valuable chunk of land on the water, close into an expensive city. Don't get me started, I already made a video about all this. But I've done this connection before, and it is slick. Headways are 15 minutes, so it is the bare minimum to make this list. But the bus is legit. It has luggage racks. That travel time is ridiculously short. The fare is $2.50, no stupid airport surcharge. And something that really stuck in my craw as I did the analysis for this video, the number of transit agencies that have significantly degraded service on Sundays. Well, San Diego says, not on my watch. It's every 15 minutes, starting before 5 a.m., todos los días. Number 4, Minneapolis-St. Paul, which I've done a couple times since I started the channel, and I am a huge fan. There are stations at both terminals. My experience has been at Terminal 1, and the metro station is just down a couple escalators. No ridiculous long walks. As far as the service itself, it's a 24-minute ride to Nicollet Mall, which I kind of think of as the heart of downtown. Metro Light Rail starts operations before 5 a.m., 7 days a week. It runs every 12 minutes most of the day, and the fare is just $2, just an insane value, and it's going to work well for just about any flight you take. Okay, I do have three more, and if you aren't already trying to guess what those three are and what order they're in, then I just don't understand you at all. Tons of honorable and dishonorable mentions too, and I think that'll help you narrow things down. I believe tickets for the New York event with the War on Cars will still be available by the time this video gets uploaded, but they did shut down ticket sales for a bit because it was getting out of hand and Hunter College still hadn't figured out how many to set aside for alumni and students. So no guarantees, but the link to tickets is down in the description. So let's talk about New York. I've done the train from Newark Liberty a few times, it's fine, but not quite at the level you want for this list. LaGuardia, closest into the city out of the three airports, and the worst transit connections, make it make sense. My honorable mention is actually JFK. The positives here, once you get to Jamaica Station, you can get frequent regional trains to Penn Station, Grand Central, and downtown Brooklyn that are all about 20 minutes travel time, and they run 24 hours a day. Or you can choose from multiple subway lines, which will be a slower trip, but maybe more direct depending on where you're going. The negative is really the air train. It adds a chunk of time to your trip, and it costs $8.50 on top of the $11 you'll be paying for regional rail. So if you're traveling by yourself, probably still a good deal, but if you have a larger party, a taxi or a ride hail is gonna start looking very good very quickly, and I just find that extremely counterproductive. Let's hit some other close calls very quickly. Chicago O'Hare, frequent 24-hour service, but it's a 40-minute ride, and they do hit you with an airport surcharge. Toronto feels like way too big a city to only have 15-minute headways. It's like $9, and it doesn't start up until 6 a.m. on Sundays. Seattle Tacoma, long walk to the train platform, 38 minutes to downtown is longer than it should be, and it doesn't start up until 6 a.m. on Sundays. SFO, decent frequencies and travel time to downtown San Francisco, but service starts shamefully late for a city this size, especially on Sundays, and fare is $10.55. Here's a curveball, Puerto Vallarta. They really want you to take expensive taxis here, but if you're traveling light, the move is to take any of the buses going down towards Zona Romantica, and they are extremely frequent, and the fare is 50 cents. Just be ready to hold your suitcase in your lap. And I do want to acknowledge a few airports that didn't meet my minimum criteria, but are going to be pretty solid for most trips. Phoenix Sky Harbor, I did this one. It's actually pretty slick. Very quick trip time to downtown once you get to the platform, but it only runs every 20 minutes on Sundays, and you don't want to be standing out in the elements most of the year. Salt Lake City, also very fast to downtown, but only every 30 minutes on Sundays. I mean, last I checked, Delta does operate flights on Sundays. Milwaukee Mitchell, the Green Line BRT is actually pretty solid for this, and I'm looking forward to trying it out, but 25-minute headways on Sundays. And another curveball, Anchorage International. Buses are 22 minutes to downtown, run every 15 minutes on weekdays, but only every 30 on Sundays, so it doesn't make the cut, but surprisingly solid for a city that size. Dishonorable mentions are just like most airports I looked at. I'm not going to rant about how Las Vegas Harry Reid has bus service that's super infrequent and doesn't even go up the strip. Just completely insane stuff. Really, the booby prize just goes to basically all 5 airports in the greater LA Inland Empire area. I know LA Metro is working on the LAX connection, but not a single one of these has a useful transit connection right now. All the more reason to build California High-Speed Rail and Brightline West and bring them both all the way into Union Station ASAP. Okay, top 3. You could really make a case for any of these being number 1. National Airport in DC. It is the travel time champion, 13 minutes to central DC on the yellow line. Also, blue line service, if that's more useful for where you're going to. Basically the frequency champion too, yellow every 6 minutes and blue every 12. And the fare is just $2.65, so as long as it works with your flight schedule, this is probably number 1. But service doesn't start until 5:30 on weekdays and not until 7:30 on Sundays, so I just can't put DC National at the top. Number 2, another contender, Chicago Midway. 23 minutes to the loop on the orange line. Frequency is going to vary, but mostly every 7 to 10 minutes. Unlike O'Hare, I believe there's no airport surcharge at Midway, so that's good. And it's not a 24-hour service like O'Hare is, but it's still something like 22 hours. Even on Sunday, trains run from around 4:30 a.m. to 2 a.m., and it's better on weekdays, so the Orange Line is gonna work for just about everything. And my number one, I don't know if I really want to be in the business of encouraging even more Americans to go to Mexico City than already are, but let's look at it. It is possible to catch a few different metro lines from the airport, but they frown on people bringing luggage of any kind on the train, so I do not recommend. Instead, you can get the Metrobus Line 4 from either Terminal 1 or Terminal 2. Metrobus is BRT that runs mostly in dedicated lanes, so the travel times are going to be pretty reliable. It's 25 minutes to San Lazaro Station, which is pretty central, or you can take Line 4 further west if you like. It has 5-minute headways, which is about as well as you can do on this list. I believe it runs about 22 hours a day. I myself haven't taken Line 4, but I'm told it has luggage racks. And there is an airport surcharge, so the fare is a whopping 30 pesos instead of the usual 6 you pay for a transit ride in Mexico City. So in USD, that's $1.50 instead of 30 cents. And if you didn't book your flight while I was telling you all this, what are you even doing? What I did here, painstakingly researching every transit connection to every major airport in North America, might sound like a lot of tedious work to some of you, but I bet there are even more of you who are kind of nodding your head going, yeah, that's probably what I would do if I had a question. I would search exhaustively for definitive answers. So if you're that type of person, or if you just respect the mindset, then you should definitely check out GiveWell, an organization that researches questions about global health and philanthropy, even when getting a sufficient answer means years of reviewing studies and talking to experts. GiveWell is a nonprofit that spent over 15 years researching and analyzing charitable organizations, and they only direct funding to a few of the highest impact opportunities they've found. They're dedicated to providing a way for as many donors as possible to make informed decisions that maximize the power of their giving. They make all their research and recommendations accessible on their site at no cost. You can make tax-deductible donations to their recommended funds or charities, and GiveWell doesn't take a cut. Over 125,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $2 billion, and rigorous evidence suggests that these donations will save over 200,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more people. So you can understand why GiveWell's approach is appealing to someone like me who's always looking for the precise, correct answer to every question I have. There are beneficial aspects to having this personality type, but the downside is, if something's outside my area of expertise, I find it very hard to be decisive to the point where I'll just ignore it altogether. And sometimes that's fine. I mean, who needs more things to worry about? But when it comes to things like malaria and vitamin A deficiency in developing countries, ignoring it just because you can't personally research the best ways to help isn't really a solution. GiveWell solves this dilemma. So if you've never donated to GiveWell's recommended charities before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, or as long as matching funds last. To claim your match, go to givewell.org and at checkout, select YouTube and enter CityNerd. GiveWell is extremely data-driven, so they want to know how people heard about what they do. You want to get your donation matched. Everybody wins. So make sure to let them know this channel sent you. Again, that's givewell.org to donate or to find out more. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks to the patrons for getting me through another year of this. No video next Wednesday. I'm off for the holidays, but I'll be back on Wednesday, January 1st with something new. Maybe something festive. Who knows? Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new episode next week, and I'll see you then.